My brother announced my involvement in his bridge project before I knew my name was anywhere near it. He stood beneath a 10-foot projection screen at our mother's 67th birthday dinner, one hand around a champagne glass, smiling as my photograph appeared beside the words "Lead Structural Consultant." Then my professional seal filled the screen. For 1 second, I thought I had misunderstood what I was seeing. The circular blue and gold mark included my full name, my Pennsylvania license number, and the same slight break in the lower border that appeared on every report I certified. Mercer Civic Construction is honored to welcome Elise Navarro to the Allegheny Crest Bridge team, Grant said. Nearly 80 people applauded. The party filled a converted factory near the Allegheny River. Contractors, city employees, relatives, and local business owners raised their glasses as though I had just received an award. My mother pressed both hands to her chest. I knew my children would finally work together. At 42, I had spent almost 2 decades inspecting bridges and aging concrete structures. My seal was not a logo. It meant I had reviewed the work and accepted responsibility for it. I had never seen Grant's bridge proposal. I had never agreed to work for his company. I had never given him permission to use my name. Grant lifted his glass higher. To family. The applause grew louder. Across the table, my 17-year-old niece, Ava, looked from the screen to me. Her fork remained halfway to her mouth. Unlike everyone else, she did not smile. Have you ever watched a room celebrate something that made your stomach turn cold? Tell me whether you would have confronted him immediately. I stood. Take that slide down. The applause faded unevenly. Grant's wife, Tessa, moved toward the laptop near the stage. She was the marketing director for his company and had perfected a smile that made every demand sound like hospitality. Elise, it's only an announcement. Take it down. My voice was quiet, but years of field meetings had taught me how to make a calm sentence carry farther than a shout. Tessa clicked to a photograph of the Allegheny Crest Bridge stretching across gray water. My name disappeared, but the damage did not. Grant lowered his microphone. Can we talk after dinner? We can talk now. My mother touched my arm. Please don't turn this into one of your technical arguments. Your brother is trying to include you. That sentence had followed me through most of my life. Grant was always trying to include me. He had borrowed my truck, invited clients to my lake rental, and promised our mother money from me without asking. Whenever I objected, the family treated my boundaries as selfishness. This is not a family misunderstanding, I said. That seal represents my engineering license. Grant gave a small laugh for the benefit of the room. The proposal deadline moved up. We needed to show that we had an experienced bridge engineer attached to the team. I was going to call you tomorrow. But you do not have an experienced bridge engineer attached to the team. We will. No, Grant, you won't. Several guests looked down at their plates. Near the bar, Malcolm Reed watched us without moving. He had worked with me years earlier before becoming an independent compliance consultant. His expression told me he understood exactly what Grant had done. Grant stepped closer. I built a generous consulting fee into the budget. I have not reviewed the design. It's a rehabilitation project, not a new bridge. That does not reduce my responsibility. My mother's hand tightened around my wrist. Tonight is supposed to be about family. It was supposed to be about your birthday. And Grant planned this beautiful announcement because he wanted me to see both my children succeeding together. The old instinct rose inside me. Lower your voice. Apologize. Handle it privately. Protect Mom from discomfort. After my father left and Mom remarried, I became the dependable child. I babysat Grant, worked weekends, and learned not to create problems. He became the person everyone protected. I became the person expected to endure. Then Raymond spoke from the far end of the table. Grant, did you sign her name to anything? No. The answer came too quickly. Raymond had spent 40 years as a concrete contractor. He liked to joke that engineers wore clean boots because they never went near real work. But he understood that professional stamps and signatures were not decorations. Did you see any project documents? I asked him. He folded his napkin. This isn't the place. That was not an answer. Grant placed his hand on my shoulder. I stepped away before he could turn the gesture into a photograph of family unity. Send me every document carrying my name before midnight, I said. His smile disappeared. Elise, don't be dramatic. Every drawing, calculation, resume, organizational chart, presentation, inspection form, and certification. Tessa closed the laptop. You're making it sound like Grant committed a crime. I'm making it sound like I need to know what he did. My mother pushed back her chair. Tears gathered along her lower lashes, visible to every relative nearby. After everything your brother has done for this family, you choose my birthday to humiliate him. I didn't put my seal on that screen. Grant did. A chair scraped behind me. Ava stood with her phone pressed against her chest. I saw Aunt Elise's name before tonight. Grant turned toward her. Sit down, Ava. It was on inspection files in your office. Tessa moved quickly toward her daughter. You shouldn't have been looking through company documents. I wasn't. They were open when I used the printer. Grant reached for the phone. Ava stepped back. I took a picture because I wanted to ask Aunt Elise about the bridge. Delete it, he said, his voice cut through the room. Ava looked at me. For the first time that evening, I stopped thinking about my mother's embarrassment or Grant's anger. I thought about inspection files. Do not delete anything, I said. Grant's face hardened. She is 17. Keep her out of this. You brought my license into it. Malcolm crossed the room and stopped beside me. I think Elise should see the photograph. Grant stared at him. This has nothing to do with you. Maybe not. But I reviewed a Mercer retaining wall project last spring, and I remember seeing Elise's name there too. The room seemed to contract around us. The retaining wall stood near a public elementary school. I had never worked on it. Ava unlocked her phone and handed it to me. The photograph showed a computer monitor filled with scanned inspection reports. At the bottom of the visible page were my name, my license number, my seal, and an image of my signature. Above them, in bold letters, were 3 words: "Structural deficiencies resolved." The report was dated 6 months earlier. The signature looked like mine, but I had never signed it. I left without touching the birthday cake. Malcolm walked me to the parking lot. The winter air smelled of river water and cold steel. Send the photograph to yourself, he said. 2 separate accounts. Do not crop it or edit it. You think Grant will claim it was altered? I think people become creative when a document threatens their livelihood. Grant called before I reached my car. You frightened Ava. The report carries my signature. Send me the full file. It was a draft. And now you've accused me in front of clients. Did you place my signature on it? His brief silence told me enough. You always assume the worst of me, he said, and hung up. By midnight, no documents had arrived. At 6:40 the next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with 2 laptops, a legal pad, and coffee I kept forgetting to drink. Snow pressed against the windows while I searched public procurement records. Mercer Civic had submitted 9 municipal bids in 2 years. My name appeared on 3, a school retaining wall, a courthouse parking garage, and a pedestrian overpass. Each proposal described me as a senior structural advisor. The biography was accurate, the relationship was not. Mom called before 8 and accused me of keeping Grant up all night. He planned to hire you, she said. Planning is not consent. Grant built that company from nothing. Then why does he need my license to qualify? She called me jealous. When I asked whose inspections Raymond claimed had cleared the projects, she ended the call. At 8:15, I called Priya Shah, an attorney specializing in construction law and professional licensing. By 9, she was on a video call, calm and direct. Do not contact the licensing board yet, she said. Someone forged my signature. Possibly. But right now, you have a photograph and public proposals listing you without authorization. First, we preserve evidence and determine the scope. What if one of the structures is unsafe? Then safety comes first. We still need enough information to identify the risk. She told me to preserve the proposals, messages, and timeline. Do not ask Ava to retrieve anything, she added. She is a minor, not an investigator. Priya prepared a notice requiring Mercer Civic to preserve every record connected to my credentials. 7 minutes after the preservation notice arrived, Grant called. He warned that 32 jobs, our parents' investment, and Ava's college savings depended on the bridge proposal. You're asking me to become responsible for choices you made without me, I said. He invited me to inspect the office records without lawyers. Priya will attend. That will make everyone defensive. Good records survive defensive people. The next morning, Tessa met Priya and me in Mercer Civic's warehouse office with 3 binders and a smile that never reached her eyes. Grant is delayed at a job site. Which site? Priya asked. The courthouse garage. That was one of the projects listing me as an advisor. Tessa placed the binders on the table. These are the files connected to Elise's name. Are they complete? Priya asked. They are everything relevant. That was not my question. Tessa's smile tightened. As far as I know, yes. The first binder contained my resume and a false letter of commitment. The second was worse. A field inspection report carried a scanned copy of my seal. Beneath it was a certification stating that cracking in the courthouse garage did not indicate immediate structural instability. I had never inspected the garage. Who wrote this conclusion? I asked. Our project manager prepared the report from field notes. Which licensed engineer reviewed it? Grant can explain the workflow. An engineer either reviewed it or did not. Tessa folded her hands. We relied on Raymond's experience. My stepfather is a retired concrete contractor. He has 40 years in the field. That does not authorize him to certify structural safety. Priya leaned forward. Was Raymond acting as a paid consultant? Before Tessa could answer, a printer began running outside the conference room. One page, then another, then dozens in rapid succession. A young employee appeared in the doorway, pale and breathless. Tessa, the project server is deleting folders. Priya stood. Do not touch any computer. Photograph every screen exactly as it appears. The employee, whose badge read Owen Park, held both hands away from the keyboard. I was exporting the project index, then files started disappearing. A remote login window appeared in the corner of the monitor. The username read G. Merker Epman. Tessa stared at it. That could be anyone using his credentials. Where is Grant? Priya asked. I told you. At the garage. Owen shook his head. He called 20 minutes ago. He said he was at home. The remote session ended. The deletion stopped. Tessa refused to let Owen preserve the logs until Grant arrived. Priya photographed every visible page and documented the refusal before we left. Outside, snow had begun falling again. Why are we leaving? I asked. They'll destroy everything. They may try. But we are not law enforcement, regulators, or owners of this company. We notify the appropriate people with the evidence we have. Then she asked the question I had been avoiding. Are you prepared for this to become public? A complaint could suspend projects, cost jobs, expose Raymond, and divide our family for years. I do not want his company to collapse, I said. Your preference may not control the outcome, I know. Do you? I watched snow gather along the curb. For years, my family has treated consequences as something I cause whenever I refuse to prevent them. Priya waited. I'm prepared. That afternoon, Priya notified the city, the 3 project owners, and the licensing board that my credentials had appeared in records without authorization. She accused no one and made no unsupported safety claim. By evening, the Allegheny Crest Bridge proposal had been placed under administrative review. Mom arrived without calling and demanded to know why I had contacted the city. You could have handled this privately. I tried. Someone forged my signature. She finally admitted Raymond had reviewed Grant's reports and knew my name was being used. He believed I would join the company later and that the paperwork was temporary. A false safety certification is not temporary. Your brother has a daughter, she said. So do the parents who use that garage. She accused me of sacrificing Ava's future. I told her Grant had tied his daughter's future to dishonesty. Before leaving, Mom said she would never forgive me if Raymond's health worsened. I stood in the silent entryway until Malcolm called. I found the engineer originally listed on the courthouse project. Samuel Voss. He withdrew before construction. Why? Mercer Civic changed the repair specifications after his review. What changes? Cheaper reinforcement plates, different anchors, and less concrete removal. Did he document his objection? He kept the emails. Malcolm paused. There's more. The courthouse facilities manager sent photographs from last week. Cracks have reopened near 2 repaired support columns. Is the garage still open? Yes. Then we do not wait for a licensing investigation. Within an hour, the county received a safety notice recommending immediate evaluation. I made no claims the photographs could not support. I identified the unauthorized certification and the visible deterioration. The county closed 2 garage levels that night. Grant messaged, "You have no idea what you started." Then Ava asked whether I was trying to put Raymond in jail. I told her I wanted no one hurt and would never ask her to choose sides. She replied with a photograph of a box beneath Raymond's workbench. Across the lid, someone had written E. Navarro, proved. Grandpa brought this home last night. Ava could not talk because Mom was nearby. I told her not to touch the box. Priya sent another preservation notice and made clear that Ava could not become our source of evidence. At 7:30 the next morning, Raymond called. You involved Ava. I did not ask her to do anything. She sent you a picture from my basement. What is in the box? That is none of your concern. My name is written on it. You always thought your name made you more important than everyone else. This is not about importance. You shut down part of the courthouse garage. The county closed it after reviewing the information. I inspected that garage myself. You are not a licensed structural engineer. I spent 40 years building concrete while engineers like you stood around with clipboards. Experience matters. It does not replace legal responsibility. I know good concrete. Then why did the cracks reopen? He went quiet. Did Grant change Samuel Voss's repair design? The original plan was excessive. Did you reduce the scope after he withdrew? We adjusted it. The city wanted the project under budget. And you used my seal because you thought I would protect the family. No one used anything you hadn't earned. The sentence stunned me. My license is not a family resource. You got where you are because this family supported you. I had built my career through scholarships, overnight drafting shifts, and field inspections in freezing rain. Still, Raymond believed my license was something the family could spend. Did you copy my signature? I reviewed the reports. Did you place my signature on them? Grant handled the office work. That is not a denial. You should have helped him. He never asked. He knew you would say no. The same justification appeared whenever someone decided my consent was inconvenient. Was the work safe? I asked. It was safe enough. There are two words no structural professional should ever use together when lives depend on a decision. Safe enough. Later that morning, Priya and I met Samuel Voss in a diner across from the county administration building. He brought marked-up drawings, printed emails, and photographs. His original plan required extensive concrete removal, replacement of corroded steel, and full height jackets around the worst columns. Mercer Civic replaced that with a cheaper, reduced repair. Grant said the county would reject the cost. Samuel explained. I told him I would not stamp the change. What happened next? He said he would find someone more practical. 2 weeks later, Samuel received a project update showing my name as the replacement consultant. Why didn't you contact me? I assumed you had reviewed a later version. Could the garage fail? Priya asked. I cannot answer that from photographs. The closure was appropriate until testing is completed. My phone buzzed. Emergency family meeting tonight. Mom's house. 7. No lawyers. A second message followed. Dad will explain everything if you stop the licensing complaint. That is not how licensing investigations work, Priya said. He thinks I can make it disappear. He hopes you can. I attended the meeting with Malcolm beside me and my phone recording openly on the table. Raymond sat at the head of the dining room. The cardboard box rested beside his chair. Its tape had been cut. Mom held a cup she was not drinking. Tessa stood near the window. Ava was upstairs. This conversation is being recorded, I said. Anyone who does not consent can leave. Grant laughed bitterly. You have become a stranger. No, you depended on me remaining familiar. Raymond pushed the box forward with his shoe. I kept copies because Grant's office was disorganized. What is inside? Inspection notes, draft reports, calculations, photographs, documents carrying my credentials? Yes. Grant stared at him. Dad, we agreed you would explain the workflow. I am. No, you're making it sound like. Like what? Malcolm asked. Raymond looked at me. I approved the field work. Grant's staff prepared the reports. Your name made the paperwork acceptable to the cities. Mom began crying quietly. Who placed my seal on the reports? I asked. I did. Grant stood so quickly his chair struck the wall. You said you would take responsibility for the inspections. I am. You're blaming the documents on yourself. I scanned the seal from one of Elise's old reports. How did you get it? Raymond looked toward Mom. She covered her mouth. You took it from my home, I said. We only borrowed the folder, she whispered. During Thanksgiving 2 years earlier, they had used my spare key, copied a report from my locked cabinet, and returned it before I noticed. Grant turned on Raymond. You told me the seal came from a consultant file. It did. You never said you stole it. You never asked. That is your defense? My defense is that I kept your company alive when you could not afford an engineering department. The seal did not change the concrete, Raymond added. No, I said. It changed who appeared responsible for it. Grant and Raymond treated paperwork as separate from concrete and steel, but a certification connected physical work to a licensed person willing to examine it and accept responsibility. How many projects used my credentials? I asked. Grant rubbed his face. I don't know the exact number. The public records show 3. There may have been internal drafts. Give me a number. 6, Tessa said. Grant turned toward her. 6 completed or active projects. The bridge would have been 7. My mother made a small sound. Which projects were not public? A warehouse conversion, a private medical office, and an apartment parking deck. Were reports issued with my seal? She nodded. Grant stared at his wife. You said those files were removed. I said they were archived. Now each person confessed only enough to shift the rest of the blame. Who directed employees to attach my seal? I asked. Grant sat down. I told them to use the standard certification page. My stomach tightened. Standard? After the first report was accepted, the staff saved the page as a template. My stolen signature had become a reusable administrative step. Did employees know it was unauthorized? Most assumed you worked with us. Because you told them I did. Yes. I looked at the cardboard box. Those records go to the investigators. Raymond pulled it closer. I brought it here to resolve this as a family. It stopped being only a family matter when the reports reached clients. You can still review the projects now, he said. If they are safe, what difference does the date make? Malcolm gave a quiet laugh. The difference between an inspection and a cover-up. Grant leaned toward me. You could conduct an independent review. If there are problems, we fix them. If the work is sound, you tell the board there was no public danger. You are still trying to hire me into a lie. I'm trying to save 32 jobs. No. You are trying to make my integrity absorb your fraud. Mom struck the table. Your brother is offering to fix this. Raymond admitted what he did. What more do you want? An honest process. And if Grant loses everything, then Ava learns that her future was never supposed to depend on adults hiding dangerous choices. Mom ordered me out. Before I reached the door, Grant spoke. The city hearing is Thursday. They are deciding whether to disqualify us and refer the records for investigation. I will attend. You know they will ask you to speak. Then I will tell the truth. Do you understand that could end the company? I understand you used my name because you thought I would be too afraid of ending it. On Thursday morning, every seat in the city council hearing room was occupied. Reporters stood along the back wall. Mercer Civic employees filled 2 rows behind Grant and Tessa. Some looked angry at me, others avoided my eyes. Mom sat beside Raymond. Ava sat on her other side with her hands folded tightly in her lap. At the front, procurement officials, licensing representatives, and county staff reviewed the evidence. The hearing would decide whether Mercer Civic had submitted false credentials and whether its previous work required review. Grant's attorney described the situation as a documentation failure caused by a retired contractor who misunderstood certification requirements. He emphasized that Grant had not personally copied my seal and that no structure had failed. Raymond was being positioned as the entire explanation. When Grant was called, the city attorney asked one question. When did you first learn that Miss Navarro had not authorized the use of her credentials? Grant looked at his lawyer. Before the first project was submitted, a murmur moved through the room. Did you remove her name? Did you notify the owner? No. Did you continue representing her as a consultant? Yes. Why? Because we needed a licensed structural engineer to qualify. The attorney displayed the Allegheny Crest proposal. My photograph appeared beside Ledgen structural consultant. Was Miss Navarro ever offered this position? No. Did she review any portion of the proposal? No. Did you believe she would agree later? I hoped she would. You represented hope as professional commitment? Grant lowered his eyes. Yes, then it was my turn. I stated my name and license number and promised to answer truthfully. Did you work for Mercer Civic? No. Did you authorize the use of your resume? No. Your seal? No. Your signature? Can you assure this committee that the completed work is safe? The room became completely still. Behind Grant sat 32 employees whose incomes might change because of my answer. My mother stared at me as though one sentence could return our family to the life it had occupied before her birthday. I could have softened the truth. I could have said there was no evidence of immediate danger. Instead, I answered the only way my profession allowed. No, I cannot certify work I did not inspect or review. Would you conduct the inspections now? I support independent evaluations by engineers with no financial or family relationship to Mercer Civic. Why not perform them yourself? Because my credentials were used in the disputed records, and the company owner is my brother. Public confidence requires a review free from that conflict. During the recess, employees surrounded Grant with questions about payroll and health insurance. Ava crossed the aisle toward me. Will Grandpa go to jail? I don't know. Will Dad lose the company? I don't know that either. Everyone says you did this. I reported what they did. She looked toward her father. If you stayed quiet and something happened, would they have blamed you anyway? I looked at my stolen signature glowing on the screen behind the empty committee chairs. Yes, they would have. 20 minutes later, the committee disqualified Mercer Civic, suspended its city contracts, and referred the matter to investigators. Because of the attempted deletion, the city would seek a court order preserving the company's records. Grant closed his eyes. The hearing was over. The consequences had only begun. Mercer Civic did not collapse in one dramatic afternoon. It weakened piece by piece. The bank froze its credit line, clients withheld payments, and within 3 weeks most employees had found temporary work elsewhere. Owen provided server logs showing that Grant had remotely accessed the system. The deleted files were recovered from an external backup. investigators found 6 projects carrying my unauthorized credentials and 34 reports bearing my copied seal. 4 structures required minor corrective work. The apartment parking deck needed temporary shoring, while damaged connections were replaced. At the courthouse garage, engineers discovered deeper corrosion than Mercer Civic had reported. The structure had not been on the edge of immediate collapse, but the reduced repair plan had failed to address the full deterioration. The closure had been justified. No one was injured. That fact brought relief, not innocence. Grant accepted a plea agreement for falsified records and attempted evidence destruction. He received probation, community service, a large penalty, and a temporary ban from public contracts. Tessa was not charged, but her reputation suffered. She moved to Ohio for another marketing job. Raymond admitted copying my seal and signature. He received probation and was ordered to pay part of the inspection and repair costs. He never apologized. At the final hearing, he told the judge that he had trusted his experience more than paperwork and only wanted to protect his son's company. Even then, he described the truth as an administrative disagreement rather than a boundary he had knowingly crossed. Mom withdrew her retirement money too late to recover everything. For months, she left messages saying I had destroyed the family. I listened to the first few, then I stopped. Silence no longer meant absorbing every accusation. Sometimes it meant refusing to participate in a version of events designed to make accountability look like betrayal. 11 months after the birthday dinner, Mercer Civic construction closed. The sign came down on a rainy Tuesday morning. I watched from across the street. Grant stood near the loading entrance with his hands in his coat pockets. He saw me but did not wave. For a moment, I remembered the little boy who used to wait outside my bedroom when thunderstorms frightened him. I remembered teaching him to drive and sending money when his first business failed. Those memories were real. So was what he had done. Loving someone did not require me to combine those truths until neither remained recognizable. Grant crossed the street after the workers left. "Are you satisfied?" he asked. "No. You got what you wanted. I wanted you to stop using my name. You got that. I also wanted the structures to be safe and the employees to keep their jobs. Not every outcome was mine to choose." He looked back at the empty building. "I spent my whole life trying not to be the failure in this family, and you used me to prove you weren't." His mouth tightened, but he did not deny it. Dad made it sound normal. He said companies borrowed qualifications all the time, and that you would understand once the contracts came in. "You knew I had not agreed." "Yes." The words sounded different without lawyers and microphones around us. "I kept telling myself I would bring you in later," he said. "You would review everything. We would fix whatever needed fixing, and no one would know the difference. But every new project made telling me more dangerous." He nodded. "When I saw your face at Mom's party, I knew it was over. It was already over. I had simply learned about it. Ava barely speaks to me. She needs time. She still speaks to you. I did not ask her to choose me. I know." That was the closest Grant came to an apology that day. 6 months later, he began working as an estimator for a regional construction supplier. He no longer controlled projects or represented himself as an expert in fields where he lacked qualifications. We did not return to our old relationship. We met occasionally because of Ava. Trust grew only when his choices became reliable. My relationship with Mom never fully recovered. We spoke on birthdays and holidays, but I stopped rescuing her from consequences created by truths she had chosen not to question. The boundary felt cruel at first, then it felt honest. Ava graduated from high school the following spring. She had been accepted into 3 engineering programs. Before choosing one, she asked to spend a day with me during a bridge inspection. I gave her a hard hat, a safety vest, and one rule: never pretend to know what you have not verified. She smiled. "That sounds like more than one rule. It covers more than one situation." We spent the morning beneath a steel truss bridge. I showed her how corrosion gathered, how water found weaknesses, and why the direction of a crack mattered. At lunch, she asked why I had tolerated our family's treatment for so long. I considered giving her a polished answer. Instead, I told her the truth. I thought being dependable meant making life easier for everyone else. I did not understand that people can depend on your silence in unhealthy ways. "Do you regret reporting Dad?" "I regret that he gave me something that had to be reported." She looked across the river. "I want to be like you." "No," I said. "Be more willing to speak earlier than I was." 2 years after the city hearing, I joined a small firm specializing in independent structural assessments. Malcolm became one of our regular compliance consultants. We created a paid internship for students without professional connections. Ava applied through the same process as everyone else and was accepted after her first year of college. I did not supervise her directly. That was another boundary. On her first day, Ava stood beneath the company logo with a notebook. For a second, I saw the frightened girl from the birthday dinner. Then she entered the conference room and introduced herself clearly. My professional seal was reissued after the investigation. The new design looked almost identical to the old one, but I noticed the difference every time I placed it on a report. Before signing, I reviewed every page. I asked the questions that slowed meetings down. I documented disagreements. I accepted that some people would call caution difficult whenever caution prevented them from getting what they wanted. The Allegheny Crest Bridge project was awarded to another construction team. It opened 3 years later after a full rehabilitation. On opening morning, I walked across it alone. The river moved beneath a pale September sky. Cyclists passed me, followed by parents pushing strollers and workers carrying coffee toward downtown. None of them knew my brother's company had once placed my name on a proposal for that bridge. That anonymity felt peaceful. I had once believed dignity came from being recognized as the responsible person in the family. Eventually, I learned that dignity did not require recognition. It required refusing responsibility for other people's dishonesty. A bridge does not remain standing because everyone agrees it looks strong. It remains standing because each connection is examined, each weakness is named, and no one is permitted to replace evidence with confidence. Families are not so different. Love cannot support what truth is forbidden to inspect. If this story made you think about the difference between loyalty and silence, share your perspective below. And if protecting people sometimes means refusing to protect their lies, subscribe for the next story.